I'm 45 years old, and I thought imposter syndrome was something that you outgrew once you had enough experience, whether it be, just life experience, work experience, whatever, relationship experience. But that hasn't been exactly true for me. Now, there's enough talk on what imposter syndrome is. It's, some would call it you being at a certain place in life, living with the fear that they're all going to find out that you're a fraud in some way. Doesn't matter how experienced you might be in any given area, something inside you is telling you that you're not, that where you are, you have no right to be there. And they're going to find out. Yeah. And you would think I'd be done with this. 45. I mean, Lord willing, I make it to 50 so I can say things like I'm half a century old. But wow. And why does it even bother me, right? In like weird ways, a weird way that imposter syndrome sits with me. I would say sometimes it's just fatherhood. Just, most of the time I see my wife as more of the adult. Like before, I used to just jokingly call myself Captain Fun. And she was Mrs. Business, And don't get me wrong, you need that in a relationship, the dynamic, the counterbalancing, But sometimes I wonder, wait. I gotta be the adult here? Like, we have 4 kids, but sometimes I think I'm the 5th one. Almost like the 5th one who doesn't necessarily get in trouble, we'll say, though I could. But, but I would say definitely for this, sometimes I still feel like I'm 12. I still legitimately feel like I am 12 years old and I have to put on this grown-up suit every day and be this adult. You know how they say adulting is hard. Adulting is weird, okay? It's weird. But we do it. But I'm often stepping outside of myself and looking at like, wow, you're really doing this adulting thing, But you're thinking childish thoughts all the time. All the time. Sometimes I'm thinking childish thoughts at the worst times. And sometimes I can see in many ways where my kids may be more mature than I am. And I marvel at that, But yeah, so that's the imposter syndrome, or one of the ways I may deal with imposter syndrome, where I feel like, the gray beard gets me by, which is why I keep it, Every now and then I look in the mirror and I go, all right, buddy, you're going to be an adult today. And I do. And I do. And sometimes it shows up in ways where, maybe sometimes my wife will look to me to be the final say. She never makes me feel small. She always, like I might be, let's say if I'm not home much, right, working and stuff, and she was taking care of the kids, that's like 4 jobs in itself, So a friend once told me that the father might be the boss, but the mom is the manager on the floor. Like she just knows the inner workings, right? The inner workings, just what goes where or how many other tasks have to take place first or be tackled first so that another simple task can even be addressed, you know? Yeah, so it's, let's say I'm putting something away and the kids are like, yeah, that doesn't go there. I'm like, oh, you know, here? No. There? No, you know? And that's to be understood if I'm not home to know where all the intricacies are, you know. You know. By the time I come home at the end of the day, you know, I'm just glad there's always peace when I get home. Peace. You know, like when you're a kid, you're not really thinking much about peace. You know, but when you're an adult, oh, peace is nice. And I always get it when I get home. So I always appreciated that. But yeah. And again, I can't solve this. I think I have to just accept that maybe, you know, I am an adult, you know. You know, maybe, you know, I don't necessarily grow up, I just grow older, right? I'm still the 12-year-old up here sometimes, you know. And I think we need that. I think we need that. It's been really good to, you know, to not lose the playful side. I just hate when it shows up unannounced, you know, when I'm doing a pretty good job at keeping it at bay. But then, you know, there you are. You know. I don't know if I'll ever grow up, really. I don't know. You know. Don't know if I have to. I don't know if I have to. I really do see the effect it has on my wife. You know, I make her laugh. Sometimes I make her laugh at the weirdest times when she didn't expect to laugh, and, you know, and vice versa, you know, she makes me laugh too. So, but I think perhaps it's just knowing when to, you know, I guess just have the discipline to be the adult, you know. Or maybe I just am an adult, you know. I am an adult and with a kiddie side, and that's okay. That's okay. I don't have to know everything. Sometimes I'd like to know everything, but, you know, that's not really realistic. Yeah. Yeah, I can't resolve this. Not even sure if it's a problem, but these are just thoughts I have sometimes. These are just thoughts I have where I have to remember that I also have to be the adult in the room. I think for the most part I'm doing that. I think. Yeah.